is Melissa Buckwheat, and I am a non-traditional student going back to law school, and that is who I am.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about yourself, like why law, how you got involved, how you met Josh.
Oh, how long do we have? No, so 20 years ago, I was a freshman in college. I was a psychology major who took an American government class and said, you know what? This is where I belong. And my school, William Patterson University, did not have a pre-law program. What we did was take law classes as part of our political science undergraduate. So I was introduced to law a little bit more intimately in my undergraduate, and I went back and forth with what I wanted to do when I got done with my bachelor's. I was very young. I started college when I was 17. I graduated when I was 21. So like most super young kids, I had no idea at all what I wanted to do with my poli-sci degree. So I was actually really scared of the LSATs, and that was the one thing that held me back from going to law school. So instead of going that avenue, I jumped into working on political campaigns and did that for the next 5 years. And then I got hired in local government. And then that's really where I started to get that urge, I guess you would say, to pursue that law degree. I wanted to be able to better understand the things that I was seeing and experiencing as a government employee. I worked in probate, which is really boring and also incredibly sad. It's where people go to probate wills and open up administrations, but we also do adoptions. So that was always a highlight. But like I said, I wanted to be able to better understand what all of that was. You were seeing the effects of the law on the individual citizen, but I wanted to get, the why and the how behind all of that. So fast forward to me finally deciding that law school is what I want to do, and I have to conquer my fear of the LSATs, and that's where Josh enters the picture, because I was very, very, very scared of this test. I've never done well on standardized tests. I mean, I'm an exceptional student, but standardized tests have never been my forte. So going through this coaching experience with Josh has really, it did exactly what I needed it to do. It helped me overcome that fear of the test and get more confident in my own abilities that I have, just to say, you know what, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take this test and I'm going to do amazing, because that's what I'm capable of doing.
I love that. So I have a very similar story in the sense that for me, like, I'm a very good student, but standardized tests especially, just aren't my thing. It was really challenging. I think, working with Josh personally, what allowed me to be more successful was he gave me a lot of confidence. And
Yes.
that's something that I think is incredibly important through this experience, is like, I just, the test, I was petrified of it. I
Yes.
just didn't, no matter what I did and how I felt when it came to test day, I felt just my anxiety take over. So I think that that's
Yes.
something that Josh, at least in my experience, has really helped, is it allows students the opportunity to understand it's okay to not be okay when it comes to the test and the anxiety attached
Yeah.
to it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like
Mm-hmm.
something that I always felt was very helpful when it came
Yeah.
to deciding, how I wanted to go about my law school journey and, how I'm going to get there. So it's really great though that like you've also had this experience of this idea of having him look at you as an individual, as opposed to just, this is my student, and it,
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that
I always, whenever he would say things like, you fell victim to the smart person syndrome. I'm like, you say that to all your students, but,
I didn't get
but
that one.
that's,
I didn't get that one. I didn't get
you
that
did.
one.
You
No,
did.
he
He
didn't
was
say that
thinking
to
it.
me.
He,
No.
now you got something to go back to him for.
Josh.
But that's, but I think that, that's, he he really does help you build that confidence within yourself, because it is that that fear. Like, I don't know, how old you are, but back in my day, we standardized tests, determined what schools you got to apply to. It determined whether you were put in an AP class versus an honors class. I mean, it really, teachers in our day really looked at that standardized test as sort of the culmination of what you were able to fulfill as a student. And I don't, even as a teenager and younger, I felt like strange about that. I am more than my test scores. My ability to retain information is not limited to that crappy multiple choice test. You know what I mean? Like, I am more than that. And I think that's where Josh really, really is unique in that regard with coaching and tutoring, because I've been to many, test prep things. I've tried to do it on my own. But there is something about working with somebody who encourages you, but also knows when to kind of reel you back in and say, okay, let's take a deeper look at this and let's try to figure out what's going on. He also makes it really easy to say you don't understand something. And I can't really I don't want people to underestimate how important that can be, because I think a lot of people feel shame if they don't understand something. And so if you feel like the person who is helping you is going to, oh my God, I can't believe how, you're so stupid or whatever, Josh is very easy and understanding, and says, listen, if you don't understand something, it doesn't matter how many times we have to go over it. We'll go over it until you figure out a way to make it resonate. And that is so astronomically important when you're trying to help somebody prep for a test, any test really, whether it's just a regular school test or an LSAT or a GRE or an MCAT.
And I agree with that, because that's something like I was in one of the larger review, I picked one of the programs, and I always felt shame when I had to ask a question. It always felt like, is it okay that I don't know this? And I think that that's something, as you said, where Josh really steps in, is he's able to tell you, like, let's break it down. Doesn't matter, let's try it multiple ways. Let's see what works for you. And I think that that's something that does separate him, is he caters to you and how you learn. And it's not a structured like lecture.
Right. That individualized experience, I for me is really what made the difference between feeling confident and taking the test and then actually going and taking the test. And the last time I took a standardized test, I did do the GRE a few years ago. I went and did that in person, but prior to that, it was 2000. I hadn't stepped foot in a cubicle with a number 2 pencil in a really, really, really long time. So, and being a non-traditional student, there is a little bit of anxiety that kind of comes along with that. I know right now that I am, when I'm applying to law schools, I'm going up against people that are half my age, have 3 times as much energy, and are fresh in the education system. I mean, I've been in school for a year now. I just completed my paralegal program. So that so that, you know, was sort of my way of getting my feet wet back in the education system. But yeah, this this whole experience has really launched that confidence, not just in being able to take the test, but sort of how I'm approaching this new journey I found myself on at this point in my life, because there is a little bit of anxiety attached to knowing that in the fall I'm going to be stepping on a college campus and looking at everybody going, oh my God, where am I?
But it's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's like I commend you, because I think it's amazing. So many people spend their whole lives doing things that don't necessarily make them happy, or do things that they feel like they have to do. And like, you're taking the step to like live your life how you want to and get your dreams, achieve your dreams and your goals. So like, you should have a lot of like self-love. Like, you really should. This is like, it's amazing that you're doing this. Like, I think I'm 23. I graduated in 2020, and I thought that, like, you know, my journey to figuring out if this is what I want to do, you know, when you're in that stage of life where you're unhappy and you're trying to figure out the other pieces, it's really hard. It's really hard to listen to yourself when there's so much around you, you know, so much around the world going on. And I think that, like, that's the other side where Josh has stepped in a lot of the times, is he comes in and tells you, like, so what? Like, you can do it. Like, you got this.
Yeah.
You will be successful. And I think that's something that, like, it's really important. It's really important when you're making a commitment like law school, to have a quarterback who can tell you, like, you can do it. We'll figure it out. And I am here every step of the way.
Yeah. That guidance, that extra cheerleader in your corner really goes that extra mile in giving you the internal confidence that you need to do that initial leap, even if that's where you're at. Or if you're like, oh my God, I've been on this journey, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, you know, having that extra cheerleader come in and say, hey, let's look at it from a different perspective. Maybe you know, let's try it this way, you know, to your point. And then you know, we'll find what helps it make sense. And that, yeah, that is very valuable, and to get that from, you know, sort of like, I think Josh is like a one-stop shop. He's like a cheerleader, he's an educator, but he also has some of that real life experience that he can bring into particularly the LSAT training, you know, coaching rather, because, you know, he did go to law school, he did take the LSATs, you know, he has experienced from start to finish every aspect that those of us that are pursuing that avenue are just branching out into. And so, you know, having that ability to relate on that level is also, I think, very important. I mean, I've never taken an MCAT coaching session with him, so I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the LSAT, the LSAT prep. And I can say that, you know, I don't think that I would have ever even taken the test if I hadn't decided to do this coaching experience. It really was that extra pep in my step that I needed to get me over the finish line for this.
That's so amazing to hear. Like, that, you know, it shows a lot how one person can make such a difference, and allowing that vulnerability too makes all the difference, you know. And I think that that's where Josh, you know, he is incredibly empathetic and allows you to just feel how you want to feel about it. And no matter how you feel, he'll find a way to make you smile always. And make you feel confident. And that's, you know, that's what I feel like always that separates Josh from other experiences and other coaches, because he just he takes the time.
I like that, you know, when you take your practice tests, because there was one week in particular where I took one. I don't even know what happened that day. I must have been having an off day or whatever. But when I took another one and did much better. And that was the one that I wanted to go over. And he was like, no, that's not the one we're going over today. We're going to go to that one that you were having an off day with. And we're going to go over that one because there could be something to it. And we need to make sure that you're grasping the concepts that you need to grasp in order to be successful on this. And it's not easy to have to evaluate what somebody like me is like, oh, that's a failure. Josh is like, that's not a failure, it's a practice test. Like, failing it would have been starting it and like not even bothering to finish it, but it's a learning experience. And even through that, just getting comfortable with the idea of not getting something right is very, very intuitive, I think, on his part as a coach, because he recognizes that people, to kind of go back to that earlier point of shame, people do feel a little bit of shame for either not knowing something or for getting something wrong. And, he's like, it's all about what you learn from it. And to be able to have a coach that is intuitive enough to know that, but then practice what he preaches,
he's a big,
worth every penny.
He's not just a doer, he's a doer and a shower. He's going to say to you, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then he shows you that you can do it. And I think that's really important. It's always a conversation. Everything, there's no lecture. It's one of my favorite, I always say about Josh is, it's not a lecture, it's a conversation. It always is.
Yeah. What I, to that point, the part of the LSATs that always scared me the most was, the logic games, the puzzles. Again, I'm almost 40. I've never done well on word problems. I took physics in high school. I took, all the other stuff. Nope, word problems, forget about it. I will put information in the wrong places, and I will get answers that my math teachers were like, I don't even know what you did to get that. I've been doing this a long time, and I've never had anybody bring me that before. So, when we were delving into the puzzle section, his ability to provide me with strategies to approach these scenarios was so valuable. Like I don't think I can properly put into words how helpful that was for me in particular, because his ability to break things down and show you how to do it instead of, well, this is the answer, you do XYZ and that's how you get it. Like, no, he takes the time to say, okay, step 1 is happening because of XYZ. Step 2 is happening because of, PQR. And then this is how the two come together. And he's just very good at communicating how to lay out strategies to approach different types of scenarios and questions, and that sometimes it's not about the actual information that's being presented, it's just simply how you're approaching the question to begin with.
I see, games was I loved games. The arguments were not my friend though.
Oh, those are my favorite.
We should have swapped. We would have been Josh's 180. Swapped. Arguments were not my thing. Games, I'd be like, okay, I'm done. You'd be like, Lulu, what? I'm like, I'm done all of them. Here. He's like, yeah. For some reason, it works with my head. Other arguments, nope. There are arguments, we'd sit there, we'd go through it, and I'd be like, I really don't understand how I got this wrong. And he'll look at me, and he'll read it through, he'll be like, Lulu, look at this. And I'm like, Josh, you still don't get it. And he's like, Lulu, where's the premise? Where's the conclusion? So always nice. It's like, whether it was my first practice test with him or like my like whatever 20th 30th practice test,
Yeah, right.
still like approached everything not with annoyance,
Yep.
just like I'd be
Yep.
like I don't get it, and he'd be like okay, like you know, and then I'd be like this is frustrating me, it's making me anxious, and he would just be like you're so smart, like you know, just move on, look at the next question, we'll come back to it, look at it again. So like it was always nice to be able to have, you know, that positive reinforcement that like it's
Yes.
okay to not even if I had the same question on all 20 30 tests, I know he would still say the same thing to me, like okay, let's break it down, look at this word, see this, okay, this is what the question's asking, you are picking up only half the information, see this is the second half. So I think it allows, you know, no matter your learning style and your learning differences, that he's able to articulate the information in a way that, you know, just like when you were saying the logic games are incredibly challenging for you, word problems are really challenging for you, but he's able to break it down in a way that you're able to understand, and how you may understand may not be the same way I understand, but he's always figuring out a way to allow the student the academic, the flexibility, the learning flexibility. And and that was always really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the very first practice test I took, I got like 6 right on the game section. But now, after going through all of the tests and doing the things that he told me to do and implementing a lot of those strategies and structures, I now will get anywhere from 12 to 15 of them correct. So it's, yeah, like it just, you know, I really can't understate how valuable it is to have a coach who can, to your point, take you through and not make you feel like you're encumbering him in some way, shape, or form, or you know what I mean? Like he's like, yeah, no, all right, cool. So we're gonna go over it, you know, again, and hopefully this time it'll sink in, and if not, we'll try it a different way next time.
So it's great.
And that, yeah, it's like no pressure.
Yeah, he takes a grueling process and makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And like, that's something is it's like, instead of going into a session being scared or like being anxious, you know, he was able to make that time more of a very relaxed learning environment for me. And I think that you know is crucial. It's crucial when it comes to testing, especially with someone like you or I, who you know was anxious about the process and petrified of the LSAT, and you know, especially because that score does hold so much weight that you know we're able to also through Josh know that we're not defined by the score.
Right. That really is so key right there, to know that you are not defined by the score that you get on that test. It is not a representation of who you are as, or even what you're capable of achieving as a law student. You know, it really, this process, if anything, you know, not only do you get a good foundation for whatever test that you're about to take. Again, I can only speak to the LSAT. You know, I don't think people realize exactly how grueling it is to prepare for one of these tests. It's not. I think they're like, no, that's just a test that they're going to take to find out, you know, what kind of school you can go to. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's true. But one does not just simply walk in and take these tests, you know. When I took the GREs a couple years ago, I mean, the last time I took a standardized test was the SAT. I was in high school. I was already, you know, in that academic world. I was surrounded by that subject matter, you know, Monday through Friday from 7:30 until 2:30. When you're an adult, you've got real world stuff surrounding you day in and day out. You're not worried about, you know, quadratic equations. You're not worried about geometry. You're not, you're not worried about writing a 5-paragraph essay in a half an hour about some random flower question they gave you. Like, that is the farthest thing from your mind. So to be able to adequately prepare yourself for these exams is incredibly grueling, and it's not fun. I mean, it's fun in the sense that you're gaining knowledge and you're moving forward in your ultimate goal. But in the moment, it's not fun. You know, between the sessions with Josh and the actual taking of the practice tests, I mean, you're dedicating anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a week at least on test preparation, and that's not even a fraction of what you're actually going to be, you know, dedicating when you're in law school or in med school, or, you know, so it's like, yeah, there's a certain level of understanding, again, that Josh brings to the table because he's been through it, so he knows how grueling that process is. So, you know, he does, I feel, give a genuine concerted effort to make it a little less grueling in whatever way he can, whether it's cracking a joke about a goofy question they've asked or allowing you to simply vent frustration, like, I don't care what color hat Harry's wearing today. How about that? How about that? Question number 7. I don't care.
Sounds like nice.
How about Mark can sit next to Sally and we're okay with that? How about that?
Why can't she just sit there? Like, who cares? Who cares about this condition?
Right. Like,
whole problem.
Why can't train number 8 be 7th today? Why not? It's a Tuesday, and that was part of the answers.
Yeah, literally. Story.
Yes. Welcome to my life.
Is there anything else you want to share about Josh, or anything you feel that any prospective student needs to know?
I think he's incredibly helpful. I think he's incredibly intelligent. I think that of all of the folks that I have come across over the years who are in the business that Josh is in, he's the only one I've used. I think that speaks volumes in and of itself. You know, like, the experience that he offers with the coaching, I truly believe is unique. I don't know that there's anybody else out there who could give such a well-rounded approach to prepping kids for these tests. I mean, it's incredibly grueling process. People put a lot of weight on being successful on these tests, and he can help you with both. Mm-hmm. I just, like, there's really, I don't think, his work speaks for itself. I took the test.
Well, thank you so much.
I don't think there's anything else to add.
Well, I thank you. Seriously, thank you. From the Ranovich coaching experience, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk about your experiences. And, you know, we hope to make the same difference for you, like we made with you for other kids. And you're going to help us on that journey.